Edge of Fate has brought with it dozens of fantastic new weapons, and Ash and Iron is already following suit. Only a week into the update, I've already had the chance to get my hands on multiple standouts, including Unfall, Might of Macro Tool, and Force Memorializer, but nothing has blown me away quite like Everburning Glitz. Glitz is a kinetic rapid-fire auto rifle which drops from Trials of Osiris and is one of the most fun kinetics I've ever built around due to the insanely cool perk combo of Bewildering Burst and Ancillary Ordinance. When you reload after a kill, Bewildering Burst readies a disorienting projectile which pops up above the next target you shoot, stunning enemies below it in a short radius. This perk doesn't really deal any damage with the explosion, but it's perfect for crowd control and synergizes excellently with Techsec to consistently disorient enemies. Ancillary Ordnance, on the other hand, are kinetic micro-missiles that launch from enemies you kill with Glitz, tracking to another nearby target and dealing damage. You can either stack up to 5 rockets, which you can do by getting rapid elemental kills, or if you kill a debuffed enemy with Glitz itself, the rocket will launch immediately. This opens up to massive synergy with any debuff-related builds, from Metaiodoxia and Suspensions to Eunoia and Scorch, but I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to dust off one of my favorite exotics, Briarbinds. The way Briarbinds works, if you're unfamiliar, is that it improves Child of the Old Gods by increasing its duration, damage, and durability, while also allowing you to pick up and redeploy it as many times as you'd like. When deployed, Child of the Old Gods deals damage over time and siphons ability energy or health, depending on if you're running a healing or empowering rift respectively. The important part though is that it also weakens enemies that it latches onto, making it perfect for pairing with Glitz. By using Briarbinds and constantly redeploying Child of the Old Gods, each one of those weakened enemies you kill with Glitz will immediately deploy a rocket, and if a few die from the siphon instead, it can load an extra rocket for later. Weaken is the perfect debuff to work with Glitz, since it'll obviously increase your damage and get you to a rocket in fewer shots so you can send out more in a single magazine. There's a really great flow to this build since every aspect of it complements each other perfectly. I'd drop an Empowering Rift, fire into a crowd to deploy Child and aim for shields first so I could disorient enemies and get them stuck in Child's radius. As I'd start picking off weakened targets, rockets would either kill or damage nearby enemies while I disoriented with Bewildering Burst after each reload. Using Echo of Expulsion, anything killed by Child of the Old God's Siphon would cause a Void Explosion, which could load a rocket into Glitz if it killed multiple targets. Once that crowd was dealt with or when Child's timer got low, I could move in to pick it up and redeploy it to start the cycle again. I think overall, Briarbinds is an extremely fun exotic to use, but pairing it with Glitz has been a total blast. The on-demand weaken is the perfect debuff to make Ancillary Ordnance work, and since Briarbinds allows for essentially constant uptime, it's super easy to use. For my special, with my exotic slot still open, I went with Slayer's Fang since it also applies weaken, and it can do so to multiple enemies at once, giving you more options to make rockets. Slayer's is also perfect for those moments when you need to move in towards a crowd so you can pick up Child of the Old Gods, or if you need to quickly cut down a larger target. For my heavy, I was running Opaque Hourglass so I could have a barrier piercing option, but if you didn't have to worry about champions, a machine gun would be perfect to rapidly rack up max stacks on Glitz whenever you cleared a crowd. Something like Commemoration would be incredible with Reconstruction and Killing Tally, or Unwavering Duty with Rampage and Onslaught. The setup of Glitz, Slayer, and Opaque does only cover 2 of the 3 champion types since Void doesn't have a subclass option for unstops, but if you needed it to be triple champion stun, you'd have a few options. You could go with Buried Bloodline for the unstops, though it isn't as useful since you can already activate Devour, but it'll definitely get the job done since it can also apply more weakening. You could also get a bit funky and go with Glitz for overloads, a Void special with either Destabilizing Rounds or Echo of Instability to use volatile rounds for barriers, and Leviathan's Breath for unstops. Those would be my go-to options, but whatever combo works for you alongside Glitz, I think you'll really enjoy. For my subclass, I went with Feed the Void to take advantage of Devour, and of course, Child of the Old Gods. I like using Vortex Grenades with this so I can use it to pull enemies back into Child's radius, but you can use whichever suits you best. I also usually like to run an Empowering Rift over a Healing Rift since Devour is my main way to survive, and it's nice to get that extra damage boost to get those rockets out faster with Glitz. For fragments, I went with Echo of Persistence and Starvation to help me keep Devour up at all times, with Echo of Expulsion to hopefully get multi-kills with the Siphon from Old Gods, and Echo of Harvest to generate extra orbs off of those weakened targets. For armor mods, I went with Kinetic Ammo Generation, Siphon, and Surges since Glitz was my main driver, as well as Super Fonts to help out since I ended up with a lower super stat. I focused my weapon stat first, while also making sure my class was at 100 so I could have rifts up as often as possible in case I lost my child of the old gods and needed to summon another. As I mentioned, I went with a full set of Techsec armor so I could disorient more enemies alongside Bewildering Burst using a combo of Specialist and Gunner archetypes. For the artifact mod, I'd highly recommend Light Forged Lead to generate even more ammo with Glitz, that fresh bullet smell for a bit of extra damage when you pick up that ammo, and most notably, Energy Acceleration, which does work with Glitz's rockets, adding in a kinetic shockwave on top of its impact damage. This build is extremely fun and I can't recommend it enough. I always really like Briarbinds just for how it plays, since I think forcing you to reposition frequently can lead to a lot more interesting gunfights than just hunkering down, but with the synergy from Glitz, it brings it to a whole new level. Slayer's Fang adds in another source of spreading weakening, keeping even more enemies around you primed to set off rockets, while also giving you an extremely hard-hitting close quarters option. Finally, with all the kinetic synergy from Bewildering Burst to Techsec and Energy Acceleration, you'll be constantly dishing out disorienting blasts and kinetic shockwaves to disrupt your enemies. It doesn't get much more synergistic than this, and I'm really looking forward to using it more throughout the season. I've left a dim link down below if you want to give this exact build a try, or if you want to use it as a base for your own spin on it. Subscribe to the channel to keep an eye out for more videos soon, and let me know in the comments what you think of Briarbinds and Everburning Glitz.